Today, Master Artisan SK is going to be showing us how to do watercolor. Be sure to stay through to the end so that way you can get all the tips and techniques on how to do your own watercolor at home.
Jami's inspiration was a really cute, very simple piece with a ball jar, and I drew a rectangle and then put a curved edge and a curved edge, and it makes a cool jar. I put it a little bit off center. You don't want to have it right in center. Okay, I want you to draw just a simple rectangle. And because you're drawing very lightly, these little rubber stretchy erasers will get rid of all of your mistakes.
I'm drawing, and I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. That is faux show.
And she's drawing very lightly. Okay, now you're going to make a curve on the bottom, a little smile. Now you're going to make a smile on the top.
Okay, so
now inside, you're going to make an upside down smile from corner to corner.
Okay.
And at the top, you're going to make a smaller smile, two smaller smiles, and that is the lip and the screw. What are they called, Seth?
The lid?
Mine's a narrow mouth jar.
Oh, the threads?
The threads, thank you.
Okay.
Threads. And if you look at a ball jar, a canning jar, every one of them in different age groups and different.
They're all different.
They're all different. So depends on the ball jar that you're
there we
going to
go.
use. I'm going to draw the line inside. It's a smile and an upside down smile. And that's going to be your water in your jar. All of these smiles should match.
Are mine close enough?
This smile is a little bit bigger than this one. So you want to make sure that you have matching smiles. What we're going to do is we're going to paint the jar one color. It's not solid, it's very watered down. And I'm going to take what's called Viridian, and it's a very blue-green.
And we're going to put the solid in with the water here and then add a little yellow.
I'm going to add a little yellow, but see, I have green ball jars at my home.
So we probably need more blue, I think.
Yep. So I add a little bit of ultramarine, and then my cerulean and my Viridian. See how blue that green is? It's really a beautiful, beautiful blue-green. So we want to make sure, because I have a lot of paint on there, I want to make sure that my paintbrush is clean and it's damp, and I want to wet my paper. So I'm going to go in here and wet my jar. Oh, that's not good. I'm going to dampen this all down.
Because otherwise it just gets too saturated, right? So, or the paint gets too saturated. So you have to saturate it with water to dim down the paint.
Right. And the thing is that when you're painting with watercolors, it's totally different than when you're painting with an oil base or an acrylic base. Now I'm going to go in. My sunshine is coming from this side, so this side of my jar will be lighter than this side. So I'm going to take a little bit of that color. See how it weeps? And it runs just very naturally, and take it down my side of my jar and just add a little bit of water if it's not running like you want, and take it down my whole jar. And this is the shadow side of the jar. And then just swipe it over to the other side in that smile.
I'm not swiping so good.
Well, you need a bigger brush.
Oh.
Yeah, let's get you a bigger brush.
That's what you handed me. All right,
I
bigger brush.
did. Gave her the wrong brush.
Oh, this one has blue on it. That's all right.
So now we have a green jar.
You have to work kind of fast. If you go too slow, then you can't. It doesn't move the way you want it to, right?
Right, and it doesn't work like oils or acrylics. The white of your paper your watercolor paper is the white. You don't add white to watercolors. It just doesn't work real well. They try to tell you that it will, but it really doesn't. I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow down here at the base of my jar. And this is the water line.
Oh, mine's special. Yours is better than
Oh, no, it's not. Look at that. So you can see what happens when you don't have your paper wet enough.
Mine's
It
too
will,
wet.
well, and see, you actually did it better and actually has the feeling better than mine does. I was being too persnickety about my strokes and not keeping in mind that my paper wasn't wet enough. And remember, this is just a simple practice, and you'll find that you can rip things up and start all over, and it just takes just such an amount of time to make something really beautiful. So don't tear it up. Just keep playing with it, and look at Jami's. Hers looks like real water, and mine is fussy and isn't looking like real water.
SK, you have to cut yourself some grace. Imperfections are the human element, and that's what makes it beautiful.
That's true. That's very true. I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow up here on the rim of the jar and on the shadow side of the jar. And it just, it depends on how many rings you have on the jar, and you'll just shadow each one of those rings.
Or whatever I'm doing over here.
You went pretty dark.
You know what? I went to the dark side. I need a paper towel. So if you mess up before you let it dry all the way, just carefully blot your piece with a paper towel, and you can pull some of that paint back, and then voila, problem solved. Just don't get anywhere you don't want it.
With my pencil, I'm just going to draw a few flower stems dripping out of, I'll draw out right out of the jar, and I'm going to do 3.
So but I can do
You can do however you want. Yeah, this is what's so awesome about, I always lean towards the left for some reason. Personal problem, I guess.
I lean towards any direction. Oh, they need to come down into the jar.
Yep, go down and crisscross them down in the bottom of the jar so they look like they've been, just like your pretty picture there.
Okay. That makes sense. There we go.
We're going to paint the stems.
And what color are we using to paint the stems?
I took the Viridian, a little bit of green, and some yellow ochre, this funky little mustardy color.
All right.
And made kind of a yellowy green.
Yeah, because they're usually like, if you look at these ones, they're not super green.
Yeah, they're not green.
Okay.
So because your jar is still damp, these little stems will weep a little bit. They will, and then you just take them up out of the jar, and however, they
Okay. Oh, yours are a little bit more fluid than mine.
And as quickly as I can, I take a little bit of water and do just like Jami did with her paper towel and make them so that they're not perfectly distinct. Because when water refracts, and it won't show once it's down in the water and through the jar already shadows it, and then the water makes it even more shadowy. So you want to make sure that it is not the same exact color as the stems that are coming out.
Like that?
Exactly.
Yeah. See?
It gives you the indication. There is that shadow down there, and when she's done, it's going to look fabulous.
My pencil did a weird thing to it, though.
That's because you're heavy-handed. Drawing with a pencil, I use a really good graphite pencil, and I keep them pretty sharp. I'm very light-handed. I don't use it in the manner that if I was writing a letter. Who writes letters? I use it like this.
Oh, sideways.
And then I can keep a pressure, I can keep my pressure very, very light when I'm drawing. Because if you draw too hard, the paper indents.
Like this.
Yes. And
This is what happens when you do it wrong.
well, no, but it looks really cool. Look at it.
It's a great effect.
It's a great effect. I'm not a watercolor artist. I am a multimedia artist, and watercolors are not my forte, but they are so much fun. You can get just incredible results with very, very little time, and you can have your own personal masterpiece.
It doesn't have to be perfect, which is good for me because we all know that I like everything a little distressed.
A little wonky.
A little wonky.
Yep.
All right, so what are we doing next?
Okay, we're gonna put some leaves on.
Okay.
And
Which brush do I need for
We're
that?
going to trade brushes.
Okay.
Pointy and round. And you get it wet. You put it in the same colors and you push it down. Go wonky, 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 tip.
Wonky, 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 tip. You have to say the wonky, 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 tip.
Yeah, you have to say that or they don't come out right. And if you have flowers growing from the earth, the sun attracts the leaves, and so they all tip up, usually, unless they're really heavy and they tip down. So if I have a tip down one, I will take my vein up the middle and then go wonky, 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 weak. That's a silly, silly thing, but that's good when you're teaching children. We were using the Viridian with a little bit of the blues in it, and I added yellow ochre, and it's watered down again. And it makes it a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer leaf where the sun might hit it.
But I feel like when I've done this, because this is my second watercolor, so I'm almost a professional here. I feel like if it's too harsh, then that's when you just come back with dipping your brush in the water.
Yep.
And you just blur those lines with the water, and that's where, if you want a little more impressionistic, that's how you do it. Because otherwise, it gets to be some really sharp lines, and you don't want that.
Exactly. And if we were to have started this whole thing, this drawing, with wet, if you have a spritzer and you dampen your paper, this would do a completely different look. It would be very impressionistic, which is incredibly beautiful. So the first part of the leaves are done, and I'm going to go in and add a little bit of the darker blue and make my green a little bit darker. And because my sun is coming from this angle, I'm going to darken and make sure that it's very damp so that it weeps into the other color that you had just done. And it looks very organic. And always remembering that I want to keep my brush damp if I want my water to run, my paints to run. I am going to add just a few other kinds of leaves in the background, just because I want some depth. This is deep red and blue, ultramarine blue. It just makes a very soft purple. And again, if I want that to run and to just kind of filter out, I will put more water in it. Isn't that pretty? Look how it makes that just fly off the page. I will let this dry a little bit so I can go in with my eraser, whatever eraser you have. Pencil erasers, regular pencil erasers aren't that great for watercolors, and they don't come off very easy. So I'll come in here and I will start erasing some of those lines that I didn't follow. And I didn't do too many of them, but if you erase and you get your eraser in the paint, it will smudge your paint. That's why I recommend doing this after it's dry. And even if it's dry, you can smudge your paint with your eraser. So you just be gentle. I'm mixing a color that is a purple, and as I do my flowers, I will just change it a little bit. Because we have the lines already, I'm going to start, and I'm just making a smooshy sound. Smush, 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 smush. And you can't cover up the paint that you've already done because this is transparent, and so it will show through. The thing is that there is no wrong way of doing this. It's what you want it to look like, and it might take some practice. It takes me practicing all the time to get mine to do what I want it to do. And see, what I'm doing is I'm covering that other leaf, that stem right there, and as this dries, you'll be able to see that stem.
Oh, that's better. This is too dark, so I'm just using my paper towel to lighten it up now that it's still wet, and then I can come back and I can add some different colors that I like better.
I'm using a mister, and when I put these on, remember this paper up here was not wet. The only thing that was damp was the jar when we painted it. But I'm going to mist this and watch what happens. It just starts to weep and run, and you can lift your board up that you have your watercolor taped on, and you can just let it do whatever it wants to do. I try to be in control most of the time, but I'm never really in control. Paint is something that is not hugely, it's very fluid. That's a great, and I'll go in and I will use that paint to work into my background, so you don't have this pure background. You can control, just like Jamie's been doing, you can control a little bit of that, and it has a really fun effect in the background. Now I've changed some of my background color to a little bit of blue, just so everything in the background isn't white or pink or purple, and that also helps your design to look depth perceptive, has a lot more depth. Because we misted the paper, the flowers will meld into the background, and I'm just adding a little bit more paint so that I can come out and around the flowers. And if it gets too much on there, do a Jami.
Do a Jami, just blot.
Just blot it down a little bit. Because in the shadows there won't be white. So you need to go in and cover that whiteness.
So what I'm doing is I'm going for a little bit more of a softer look with not as bright a color. So I'm coming back through here after I've misted it, and I'm just adding color to the background. And then I'm putting the color on. I'm misting it to blur the lines. And then I'm just coming back through and just pulling it back off. So it's adding a like color without being like.
I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to just blot a little bit of that water, that if I tilted my canvas up, it would actually run. So I don't want that to run. So I'm going to blot my flowers in my background. Not trying to take paint off, just trying to take drippy moisture off. Because what we want to do now is that same color, we just want to add a little bit of brown to it. And a little touch of black. And I'm going to take a little paintbrush, and I will give Jami one, and it has a smaller tip. And I'm going to put dots in the middle of my flowers. And it's still damp, so you can see that they are still running, which you really kind of want. And this flower up here looks like this is a pretty leaf that's turning. So I'm going to use that, and this one has a leaf, a petal, and so I'm going to put my little dots up here. And I'm going to go back with my towel just very, very gently and just pull a little bit of that up so it's not so harsh. I'm just going in and putting a little bit of more contrast and shadow in my jar for the water. Remember, water is a flat substance, but in a round jar, it refracts and makes the water look like it's curved. I usually have a ruler, but if you have another straight thing, just draw a background table on it. This base is sitting on a table. It could be up here because this might be sitting in the middle of the table, or it could be almost falling off. It looks like I've got mine, so it's almost falling off. But that shows through the glass. Just a little bit. And I take my filbert brush. It's a flat, round brush. I'm going to use brown and a little tiny bit of black. Very, very wet. And if I were doing this long term, I would actually put a piece of tape on that, so I kept my horizontal surface absolutely horizontal. And I'm just going to add a table back here, a shadow. And it goes underneath the jar and out. It just makes it so it looks like your jar of flowers is not floating. Then I'll take a little bit darker. My sun is coming from this direction, so I'll put a shadow under it and on the opposite side. Jami has made her tables so that her jar is more to the center of the table, and it looks like it has a really good foundation. Mine is too low, and it doesn't make sense. So if you see that something's not making sense, go back in and extend your table up. Because I like Jami's better than mine, I want to copy her. But that table has got to be perfectly horizontal. When you frame this and mat it, they will mat it according to the slant of this table.
So we're going to get darker over here.
You just take it. What this does is you have a lot of heavy, lots and lots of heavy balance up here, and you've got gray space. Space is where there is nothing there. That's called gray space. It's a place for your eye to be able to rest. And then you want a balance of that on the other side. So whether it is your balance up here is heavy, then you want something to rebalance it across the bottom.
Okay, so kind of how I have the dark over here and the dark over here, but then I'm going to leave this alone.
Yep, that's called gray space.
I'm going to pretend like I knew that when I was going. All right, thanks SK for coming.
You're welcome.
You have made I've upgraded from kindergarten watercolor to at least 4th or 5th grade. So.
Well, I think we're probably in 6th or 8th grade now.
Middle school?
I think we're both middle school today, and it was way fun, so we must be seniors.
Be sure to stop by SK on Elderberry on Facebook. We're going to put the link below because she does a ton of lives, lots of how-tos. If you're interested in learning how to do canvas art or art on any kind of surface mixed media, she's your gal. So we're going to post as many links as we can below for all the products that we use today. Be sure to go to JamiRayVintage.com for any of your paint needs for your furniture or DIY. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more
DIY.